What is happening? Check, check, check. 1, 2. All right, live. Looks like we are live. Just gonna check the audio. Make sure that the audio is working. Can I get a comment from somebody? Anybody? Well, it looks like I have 0 viewers, so no. We had some issues last night during Tunes for Tuesday where I lost the audio about an hour into the show, and yeah, it kind of sucked. And what sucked even worse was that I went to edit. I was going to edit out the part that got cut off, and I ended up editing everything else out except for that. So if you watch the video for Tunes for Tuesday, which is on the website, that's what happened. And I'm probably not gonna put that on the YouTube channel, just because it's just me doing Hurt So Good, and that's when it's actually at the end there, that's when the audio went off. So anyhow, if you can hear me, please let me know so I know the audio is working here. So check, check, check. Check. Steph, we got audio? Okay. Steph has confirmed that we have audio. All right. And you are up. Also, welcome, Kevin. So, and welcome, Steph, of course, who I locked in the bedroom again, because that's what I do. Anyhow, welcome, everybody, to b.hive Productions Apocalypse Humpday. It's where I read from my short stories, any that have to do with the apocalypse or the end of the world or what have you. We are on the zombie saga right now, which we are reading from my book, Zechariah 14:12, Humanity's Last Stand. And it was a book I wrote that derived from a short story that Kate's in the room too. See, that's why we're brothers, man. But yeah, it's a derived from a short story I wrote from one of my I think it was my first horror anthology, and some of my readers had asked me if I'd be able to make that into a book, and I didn't think I would be able to, but I did, and yeah, and now we're reading it. So we are on we are in chapter 17 now, and basically when we left off last week. When we left off last week, the president had launched nuclear missiles into the United States and wiped out a lot of the big cities, or at least they're heading that way. We are catching up with Kris, Emerson, Len's wife, and the mother of Lee and Catherine. And also we're catching up with Brent Falcone, who's a service member who rescued Kris from the hospital when that came down. And Hal Iverson, who was also rescued by Brent at the radio station in town. And they're holed up in Hal's house. They have 2 new people in their group, a set of teenagers, Kyla and Dave. And yeah, and they're trying to fit in where they can. So, anyways, tonight I thought, before we got into the reading, I would share some zombie jokes with you. And feel free to answer in the comments what you think the punchline is. When do zombies go to sleep? And I'll give you guys some time to answer that. These are kind of dad jokes, and they might make you groan. Anyone? Steph? Kev? Okay. When do zombies go to sleep? The answer is when they're dead tired. Yeah, right. Okay, how about this one? Why did the zombie ignore all his Facebook friends? I'll give you guys about 30 seconds on that one. Oh, look at Steph thinking there. After you put a bullet in their head. Kevin, that's so violent. Oh, of course you're in Florida, and that's what you guys do down there, isn't it? Why did the zombie ignore all his Facebook friends? Did you get that, Kev? Steph doesn't know. All right. Why did the zombie ignore all his Facebook friends? He was still digesting all of his followers on Twitter. But I'm bummed. All right. Let's see. Let's see. What do you call zombies with big lips? This is also a bad joke. The question again is, what do you call zombies with big lips? And no, this isn't. Yeah. Uh-huh. That's an excuse, Steph. Suckers. That is incorrect, sir. All right. What do you call zombies with big lips? A zombie apocalypse. Ha, 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 ha. How does a zombie introduce himself? How does a zombie introduce himself? Anyone? Yeah, I warned you. These are kind of dad jokes. How does a zombie introduce himself? By eating your brain. That's very close, Kevin. Very close. They they introduce themselves by saying, "Pleased to eat you." All right, I'm going to give you one more, and then we're going to jump into the story here. Um, what does a zombie get when he's late for dinner? What does a zombie get when he's late for dinner? I'm a bad man. I'm a bad, bad man. Yeah, this was probably a mistake, but it's kind of fun. Hungry. Oh, that's actually a good one. All right. Steph, you got an answer? Leftovers? Oh, that's pretty close. He gets the cold shoulder. Ha 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 ha. All right. All right, one more before we get into the story. Um where do most zombies live? Oh, you liked that one, Kevin. Come on. Where do most zombies live? Think about Fairmont. Kevin, you should be writing these jokes. That I like that answer better than the actual answer. Fairmont, that's awesome. All right, here we go. where where do zombies live? Where do most zombies live? On a dead end street. Yeah, thank you. I'm here all week. All right, we'll get back in. We'll get into the story here. I'll stop making you guys groan. Thank you. I'm here all week. Yes. Anybody have any brains around here? Perhaps you've got a badger that I can chew upon? All right. Yes. Oh, dear Lord. All right. So, we're going to... All right. Here we go. Chapter 17. One thing about Chapter 17, the research I did for this, I have to thank a longtime friend of mine, Todd Schroeder, who was a ham radio enthusiast, and he helped me out with a lot of the terminology and how to talk and protocol of talking on a ham radio and how it works and blah blah blah. So anyway, so we have him to thank for all the technical stuff on here. Chapter 17. CQ, CQ, CQ. This is Whiskey Zero Kilo X-Ray Papa calling CQ. Hal made his way up and down the bandwidths, trying to reach anyone. Having Kyla and Dave around had its pros and cons. There were extra people to watch, handle weapons, which meant more sleep for all. Unfortunately, it also meant less food, and it didn't take long to dwindle down to their current status of rations. I knew I recognized that voice, Dave said from behind him. Excuse me? Hal asked, annoyed. You're the Hal Iverson, the news guy from KFMT and KSOM. I'm surviving the zombie apocalypse with a celebrity. Hal sighed deeply. I'm hardly a celebrity. Now, of course, if I was to pick a celebrity, it would be with someone like Mila Jovovich. Now that chick could kick some zombie ass, and she's fine looking. Is there something you need? Nope, just bored. What are you doing? I'm trying to get a hold of anyone out there. Other survivors. Maybe some news from the government. Something. I think the government is fucked. I think we're on our own. Well, the government is in control enough to drop nuclear warheads. Did they drop them yet? Hal looked at his watch. 3:34 p.m. No, not yet. That's some serious shit. Nukes. In my time. Damn. I see the situation has left you in deep thought. Dave looked into space for a moment. I guess. I mean, what can I do about it? It's not like they're hitting around here, right? According to the president's message, they were hitting the larger cities. I would be surprised if they chose Minneapolis, but who knows? In any case, even though we may not feel the blast, we may suffer from the repercussions. Right, so what are you talking on there? An old CB radio or something? A CB radio? Hal's lip began to twitch. This is an ICOM 756 Prol with a Heel P20 and a Meritron 811H, and an ICOM 746 Pro with an Astatic Silver Eagle D104 Tram D201 hand-wired. And I might add a DAC MA9 and a unit in Washington. CB radio. Give me a frickin' break, kid. I've talked to the International Space Station on this thing. Whoa, dude. I know it's a zombie apocalypse, but you need to chillax. Stop calling them zombies. That term is so childish. Well, what would you call them then? Hal took a deep breath, collected himself, and then spoke. Infected. That's what I would call them. The military is calling them deadheads, if you prefer. But zombies? No. Dude, do you want to get high? I think a little Mary Jane might mellow you out a bit. I've got a little left in my just go bother someone else, okay? See if Brent needs any help. The deadheads were just standing in place, staring off into some faraway place. To Brent, it looked as if they were waiting to hear the missiles hit whatever city they had picked to vaporize. As soon as he stood on the top floor patio surveying the perimeter, he shivered, noticing there were no normal sounds. No birds, no dogs or squirrels warning other squirrels about dogs. Nothing. Just silence so thick it was deafening. He went back inside and began to check the blockades on the windows and the doors. Kyla and Kris were both sleeping. Dave was somewhere in the house, and Hal was upstairs trying to reach anyone on the ham radio. He was walking past the bedroom where Kris was sleeping and stopped when he heard her struggling in her sleep. "Kris?" he said, peeking in. The sheet was wrapped around her bad leg and coiled about her torso. She tossed and turned, and as he got closer to her, he noticed her brow was furrowed. It was as if she were about to cry. "Kris?" he repeated, and he gently shook her shoulder. Her eyes immediately flicked open in surprise, and she gasped. "What's going on?" she said. "What's happening?" "Easy. You were whimpering in your sleep. I thought maybe your leg was giving you trouble." "My leg? No. Morphine is taking care of that. Dreams. Bad dreams. I can't imagine. Do you think my family made it?" He didn't answer at first. It was one of those awkward moments when you want to be honest and not one of those crowd pleasers that just says what you think people want to hear. But considering the circumstances, maybe his honest opinion was not warranted. "Well, if your girls and your mom are anywhere near as resilient as you," he finally said, "I'm sure they'll be holding up well." "Did they drop the bombs yet, you think?" "Well, if they go according to plan, they have roughly 12 minutes to launch." "You know, I always thought that if some horrible catastrophe happened, I would want to be with my family. That if things looked bleak, I would be in the comfort of their arms and they would be in mine. But I chose to go into work. And now look." "You didn't know things were going to get this bad, Kris. Don't blame yourself." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Shh." Brent held her face to his shoulder. "I'm sure they'll be all right. Hal will get in contact with every safe zone in the area and find them." "They probably think I'm dead, Brent. They probably made it out to the hospital and found it in shambles with bodies laying all over the place and thought I was dead. Len and my mom would be there trying to give them hope. But they would think it too. Hell, I wouldn't even think it was me in their shoes." "Let's not think about that, okay? Let's concentrate on staying alive so that we can find out if we all made it." Kris finished crying in his shirt and looked up at him. "You're right, Brent. I just needed a pity party for just a little bit. We all do. It's my turn tomorrow at 2:20 p.m., okay? Kris laughed as the last tear fell down her cheek. Both their faces were relatively close for that moment. They stared into each other's eyes. A glance towards one another's mouth, and then back into their eyes. One pair of blue into one pair of brown. Their mouths opened, and they leaned in closer to each other. "Am I interrupting anything?" Dave said from the doorway. Both jumped like teenagers caught in the act of making out in the parents' basement. "Jesus, man," Brent said. "The fuck are you doing?" "Hal sent me down here to bug you for something to do." He grinned at them both. "I'd do what your guys are doing, but Kyla's asleep." "Nothing happened," Kris said. "Okay, lady, whatever," Dave said, not leaving. "I guess we better huddle around the radio with Hal," Brent said. "It's our only link to the outside world, and I'd like to see what happens after they drop those nukes." "Oh, Hal baby's gonna love that idea." "Dave, why don't you go wake Kyla and meet us in the attic," Kris said. As Dave left, Brent whispered, "That kid's really getting on my nerves." They both chuckled, and Brent stood up to let Kris get changed. "Brent," Kris said, grabbing his hand. "I'm sorry. A vulnerable moment. I don't know what." Brent leaned in and grabbed her face. "It's the end of the world. People are eating people, and nuclear warheads are dropping on American soil. I think there's some cause for that." With that, he kissed her. She moaned and cried at the same moment. The kiss was hungry and lonely. Amy was in his thoughts, and Len was in hers. After a long moment, they stood up. "See you up in the attic," Brent said without turning around. "Okay," Kris said, looking for some fresh clothes. There was chatter on the shortwave band. Launch centers with Air Force One reporting the progress of every launched missile. A tear went down Hal's face as he listened to the reports coming from his radio. The first city to go was New York. Thermonuclear heat cut through and disintegrated millions of infected. Atlanta became a glass parking lot, and then Los Angeles. "Dear God," Hal said to himself in a whisper. "I don't think God is listening to us anymore," Dave said next to him. Boston's Navy Yard and Commons were next to be reduced to dust, as historic landmarks blew away like sand castles in a high wind. When Chicago was hit, the explosion was so hard that they could hear a distant rumble far off. Dallas and Houston went up simultaneously. "I wonder if they're going to hit Minneapolis," Kyla asked. Silence. The chatter ceased, and the tension in the air in the attic room was so thick it was suffocating. "I think they're done," Hal spoke up. "I hope everyone got out that wanted out," Kris said. She looked down and noticed she was squeezing Brent's hand. "CQ, CQ, CQ, this is Whiskey Zero Kilo X-Ray Papa calling CQ," Hal began again. White noise answered him back. "I'm not a bright guy," Brent said, "but don't nuclear explosion mess with radio waves and stuff?" "To a certain extent," Hal answered. "But if your particular area wasn't hit, or if your equipment was shielded by, well, say a Faraday cage or lead, then you'd still be able to broadcast and receive. You're the expert, man." "CQ, CQ, CQ, this is Whiskey Zero Kilo X-Ray Papa calling CQ." "Well," Brent said, "let's give Hal some space and do a perimeter check. Dave, you and I might want to look at going on a supply run. We're running pretty low." "So what does that mean?" Kyla asked. "They dropped the bombs, so are we going to be okay?" "I don't know," Brent said. I'm sure they dropped them to give us a fighting chance. I can't imagine what the big city life is like with the infection rate.
Well, Whiskey Zero Kilo X-ray, Papa. This is November Zero Kilo India, Papa. Over.
It was the answer to Hal's query. November, this is Whiskey. Over. Hal fumbled with the microphone.
Thank God, Whiskey. I thought I was hearing things. Over.
November, how many are with you? Over.
We are at a safe zone at the Moon Valley County Fairgrounds. There are just over 100 civilians and military personnel over here. Over.
Copy that, November. We are roughly 3 miles from your location. There are 5 of us. Kris Emerson, who is an RN and wounded, Brent Falcone of the U.S. Army, Dave Miller and Kyla Jurgensen, both minors, and myself, Hal Iverson. Over.
Are any infected? Over.
Negative, November. Is there any way you can send help? Over.
I'm sorry, Whiskey. Things are a bit risky right now. As soon as we have something available, we'll send out help. Is your wounded life-threatening? Over.
Negative again, November. She is stabilized, but we are running short on supplies. Over.
What is your location, Whiskey?
We are at... Brent pulled the microphone from Hal. What the hell are you doing? I told you not to tell them our location, Hal, Brent said angrily. We don't know who they are. Jesus, Brent. He's from the safe zone. So he says. We can't know for sure. Stand by, November. Hal looked up at Brent. Tell him we're holed up safely and we'll try to make a break for the safety zone as soon as we get the opportunity. November, we're safe now. We have an ambulance we can take to your location when the time is right. We will keep in touch on this band. Over.
Affirmative, Whiskey. November 0 Kilo India Papa. Over and out.
Whiskey 0 Kilo X-ray Papa. Out. And that, my friends, is the end of chapter 17. Next week on Apocalypse Humpday, we'll be jumping into chapter 18, and we will catch up with who are we catching up? We'll catch up with Len and the kids who have made it to the safety of the Moon Valley County Fairgrounds. And seems to be the last stronghold, at least the last military stronghold in that area. And we'll catch up with them. So, yeah. And hopefully they'll get in touch with Kris. And Kris can know how everybody's doing. Of course, she's got to find out that Mom isn't around anymore. Shh. Spoilers. All right, so what I was saying last night before I ruined the video and we had technical problems and I edited out all the good stuff is I wanted to say thank you to everybody that comes to these podcasts that I do. Some days I'm really worn out after work and I'm just like, ugh, I don't want to do this, but it's fun. Last night was a lot of fun. And I'm really bummed out because it was probably one of my favorite nights last night. John Mellencamp is one of my favorite musicians out there. So I will never get to see that again, but I'm sure I'll be playing his music throughout my life, and I'll get caught up with that. Anyhow, the album project that I'm working on with a friend in town here, that is going to be, he's putting together a song list this weekend. We're going to do 21 songs we're going to record. So, yeah, I've got that to look forward to. But coming up very soon, we will be talking with Stephanie Schultz. Not only is she my girlfriend, but she is an artist. She paints and she draws, and she's also a very good photographer. She's got a great eye, and we're going to chit chat about her stuff and a little bit about her, and we're going to talk about what's going on here at the Hive, and that's on the next episode of What's the Buzz on Friday. So she's a little nervous, but I think she'll be fine. She's her and I got pretty good chemistry, and it'll be fun bantering back and forth with her. And yes, I'm still gonna put her in the room. So anyhow, yeah. So we've got that to look forward on Friday, and I still haven't picked anybody for Tunes for Tuesday. It was suggested. John Denver was suggested. I'm gonna think about that. I'm not a huge fan of John Denver, so yeah, that's a maybe. Oh, and he might be later on down the road. We'll see. But anyhow, thanks again, you guys, for coming out. I missed out on Chuck's Badgers, so I'm a little concerned, hoping that he didn't get attacked on the way out here. I imagine he might be doing some underground cooking with Jason, which is totally fine. We'll catch up with him later. He always comments no matter if he's here or not. So, but Kevin and Steph, thanks for hanging with me, you guys. And yeah, we'll see you on Friday, 8 o'clock, right here. What's buzzing at the Hive? All right. Love you guys. Peace.